Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us to part 4 of our Untangling Memory Loss series. I'm Mary Susan. I'm the campus administrator here at Wesley at Tahali, and I have to thank you again so much for inviting us into your homes and for joining us right here at Tahali. It has been just a very fun and interesting time for us here. And instead of me doing all the talking tonight, I know you've met Marley before. Marley Patterson is our Arbor Nurse Manager and my partner in crime here at Tahali. And I really want you to hear more from Marley tonight. She is a wealth of information, and I reach out to her on a daily basis, if only to bounce an idea off. But I thought this would be a great opportunity for you to get to know Marley. So I'm going to turn my mic off and I'm going to turn this over to Marley. And thanks again for joining us.
Hello. Sure, I'm on. All right, so tonight we're doing more of a informal Q&A. We've got a lot of good questions that came in through the email that was put out, and then some questions that had been asked throughout the series that maybe we didn't know the answer to, or we were saving for tonight to address. So we'll just go through some of those, and then as we go, bring your questions in, and anybody in the audience who might have questions as well, and we'll work through those. So one of the biggest ones we got was how to have those difficult conversations that may come up with our residents, or sorry, I come from working with our residents to up here. So with our loved ones with dementia. We have some folks coming in.
Come on
in. So the depth of your conversation is going to depend on the progression, how far progressed your loved one is. You're not going to want to go into a whole lot of detail or reasoning with people that are further advanced in their dementia. You're going to take it slow. If your loved one becomes agitated with the conversation or it appears they're getting anxious, take a step back, take a break, and then come back to it later. Give them time to cool off. If they're not as progressed in their dementia, they'll have time to kind of think about it. They may be able to reason a little bit more. And then for those who are more progressed, they might not remember that conversation you had previously. So you can come back and try a new approach and see if it goes better that way. You can always get your health team involved. If it's a safety issue like driving, living alone, you can ask the doctor for recommendations. Sometimes, we listen to those with authority a little bit more than we listen to those who love us most. So that tends to help. So with the driving, yes, that is a big one. We got questions about that. So you're going to want to appeal to their sense of responsibility. You wouldn't want to hurt yourself or someone on the road, anybody around you. You can use examples of things that may have occurred that are unsafe, that are bringing this to light, bringing the conversation up. A lot of times our friends with dementia, they may make excuses. They may not remember that even happened. So just keep documentation for yourself so that you're able to have those conversations. So one of the things is for those who can't reason or, the sense of responsibility isn't there, you may have to make it so they cannot drive. So take the keys out of the house and don't have access to them. I've even had residents in prior communities where family members have disabled the car so they can't get in and drive away, because if the car doesn't work, you can't go anywhere, and sorry, we're not going to fix it right now. And then a lot of times, depending on how far they are in their dementia, they may stop asking altogether, but be available to take them where they want to go so you can show them. You don't always need to drive. We will be able to help you get where you need to be.
Can I jump in here real quick?
Absolutely.
I have the cutest story, because one thing we've talked about over and over is each person is different. Each situation is different. It can change from 1 minute to the next. And I had a family, and I thought they were so creative because their dad liked to drive. He liked to drive a lot. And when you talk to him, he really just liked to be in the seat with the steering wheel and listen to gospel music and sing along. And they were like, I don't know what we're going to do. Well, they put the car up on blocks And he could go out there and the caregiver would get in the passenger side and he would get in the driver's side and he'd turn it on and they'd have their music and he'd turn the wheel and he sang along. And that brought him so much joy. It was unbelievable. And he was just in the parking lot of the memory care and he'd say, "Come on, dear, let's go for a ride." So don't be afraid to think outside the box. Okay, it's just a little example, but oh my gosh. And he'd come back with a grin from ear to ear, was so happy. And, it also was great for the caregiver because she got to spend some time. It was a moment of joy, which we've talked about over and over, is creating those moments of joy. And yeah, it doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense, but it did for him. So yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's such a good idea. All right. So another difficult conversation, when to move. That one is really tough. We all want to be able to provide that care for our loved one as long as we can, but sometimes that is not always the case. Not always, not everyone is able to do so. So you could talk about the benefits, if you're trying to appeal to them and being agreeable. Nobody wants to leave home. And that's usually the case. They want to stay where they're at, but sometimes you just can't. So you're going to want to appeal to the benefits of community living. No more cooking, no more cleaning. You have lots of friends all around. There's activities, things going on. Talk about those types of things. Maybe they're going to be moving closer to a loved one. You're bringing them from cities away closer to you. So you'll have more time to visit with each other. You'll see each other more often. So we had this come in, lock the door to the garage so they can't get to the car, lock the car doors when you exit so the loved one can't get in, guiding them around the passenger side, and suddenly the door is unlocked and they can get in on that side. So that's a great idea when you're taking them out to keep them from getting in the driver's seat.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Oh, that's a good one.
All right. Rather than removing battery cables, you can replace one cable with one that has a rotary off-on switch. All right, very good.
Another great idea.
Yeah. So another tip that helps when it is time to move your loved one is don't wait until it's too long. You want them to be able to make memories in the new community. If you wait until they're not able to, it's going to be an unfamiliar environment. It's going to be a lot harder to transition into community living. Those are the transitions that we see that are the toughest, is someone who has lived at home, by themselves or with the help of a caregiver or even with family. And then they come into this community and it's all unfamiliar and they're not used to having people around. Those are the toughest transitions that I see. When we have somebody who comes maybe from an assisted living or even just independent living, they're already used to that communal style living. So it's a little bit easier for them. They're used to having staff in and out. And so that makes it better for the staff and for the resident to adjust. I had personal experience with this. I was a caregiver for my uncle who had a traumatic brain injury, then developed early onset dementia when he was 65. I was his power of attorney from age 18 until he passed away when I was 27. And I ended up taking care of him at home for 4 years, but then had to move him into a community because of behaviors and that I couldn't manage at home with 2 small children. And so he went straight from home with me and my family to this community. And it was a tough transition. It was very difficult for him. It was difficult for me. That's actually how I got back into nursing. Once he moved into the community, I went to work there as a caregiver and then went back to nursing school and worked there until he passed away. So I found that taking him down there in anticipation of moving, we had lunch there 2 or 3 times a week. That helped tremendously. So he was familiar with the building by the time he moved in. He came with me and set the room up. That helped some, but then he became anxious. So everybody's different though. Just because one person with dementia, one person with dementia. Everybody is so different. These are just things that may work for others. So just personal experience though, that transition was tough coming from living at home with your family to going straight into a community. So we always encourage, don't wait too long. Don't wait until they can't make those memories and become familiar and comfortable. All right. So what do we have here? Oh, so we did get a question about how to enjoy time with your loved one when they might not be the most enjoyable to be around. And so that's really common. So you're going to want to find calming activities to do together. Keep it light, listen to music, maybe smelling candles and lotion. Scents are always a real good one. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Technical difficulties.
Yes. Looking at photo albums together, that's always a really good one. Try, reminisce on previous times. Try not to talk about current events because they might not always be aware or be able to remember recent things that happen. Keep the visit short, 20 to 30 minutes usually is best. Friends with dementia usually lose interest after that amount of time. And that's when you'll see kind of wandering and fidgeting. They might get a little more agitated. And so keeping it nice and short helps. We'll finish this one and we'll go to that. And then continue to learn about the disease, just like everybody's doing here, becoming aware of, what's happening to them, what's going on with their brain so that it can help you to cope with what's going on as well. So you kind of understand where they're at in the progression, and that will help keep things in perspective there. So we had a question on here. Do you find that the dementia symptoms worsen once they do make the move to community living? Mm-hmm. At times, yes. We have what we call a transition period. So when they first come in, for some, it's only a couple days. Some, it could be a month. Yes, some symptoms will worsen because they're in an unfamiliar environment. We find that when they're at home, they have their routine. They know, this is what I do. This is where my things are. Kind of like the video we watched last week where she uses a kettle on the stove and she knows how to do that. But if you give her an electric kettle, she's not going to know what to do. So when they move out of their familiar home where everything is where it should be and they have their routine, you find that they have been masking their symptoms. They may have always been there, but they're able to kind of hide them and go with their routines and their flows. When you take them out of that, you're going to see more prevalence of those symptoms. They're going to come to light because they're out of their routine. So we do see that a lot. All right.
Any questions? Don't hesitate.
Yeah, if you have any questions, let us know.
Okay.
All right. So handling challenging behaviors. This is a question we get a lot, is how to address those behaviors. So offering choices is huge. And not a lot of choices, this or that. So don't make the decision for them. You're going to want to say, when you're setting out clothes, would you like to wear the blue shirt or the green shirt? And give them options, but not too many. So this or that. Yeah, we have a question out here. Yeah.
His answer to me is you pick. They don't ask you first. You pick.
So
He does that with food and clothes and everything.
Yeah. Well, that makes it easy.
Yeah. So we had an audience question that the spouse doesn't want to pick. They want them to pick. So when he's given options, he says, you pick. She doesn't know if that's correct or not. So if your loved one's telling you to pick, then it's okay. So a lot of times when this is handy is when we go in and we say, all right, it's time to get up and get ready for the day. And they say, no, I don't want to. And well, we need to change our shirt. No, I don't want to. Or the shirt's dirty and they don't want to take it off. Well, would you like a red shirt or a blue shirt? And, then that kind of helps. If they say, well, I don't care, you pick. Well, then great. You look great in red. Let's put the red shirt on. So that's okay to pick for them as long as they're okay with it. So, and same with food choices as well. Would you like chicken or beef? Keep it simple, but give options. So you're not making those decisions for them. Because if you just walked up to them and said, here, I got you some beef. Well, if they don't want to eat the beef, you're probably going to get, well, I don't want to eat. I'm not going to eat that. So always give the option of what they would like. Always one step at a time. So if someone walks in your room in the morning and they say, all right, let's get up. We're going to eat. We're going to get dressed. And then we're going to go take a shower. And then we're going to go to exercise class. You'd be like, no, get away from me. I am not doing that. Same with our friends with dementia. You're just keep it simple. We're going to go in and do one thing at a time. Would you like to have breakfast or get dressed? Let them pick. If they say neither, I want to stay in bed. Okay, well, your breakfast will get cold. Why don't we eat? And then we'll see how we feel. So kind of give those options of when do you want to get, what do you want to do first? And not of, would you like to get up? Well, would you like to get up and eat or get dressed? So we have more people coming in. So, and then one thing I like to do too is when I'm helping somebody get up in the morning and they don't want to get up, it's all right. Well, why don't we eat? And then you can get back in bed if you feel like it. A lot of times just getting out of bed is the biggest thing. And then once we're up and moving, we can do everything we need to do, but one step at a time. So maybe we'll eat breakfast, then we'll get dressed, and then we'll take a shower later after we've had time to wake up some, or we eat breakfast, we shower, then we get dressed, but we don't present it all at once, one at a time. So a lot of times a behavior is based on an unmet need, whether that be, oh, sorry. I got to read it again.
That's okay.
So most behaviors come from boredom, frustration, or fear. And so, or an unmet need. So that unmet need could be that they're not getting the stimulation they need. So they're, they may seem grumpy or like they're having a behavior, but really they need something from us. Do they need to go to the bathroom? Are they having pain? Are they soiled and they need to be changed? And they may not be able to tell us those things. So the way they're acting may seem like a behavior, but really it's they need a need met. And that's why we're there, is to do it for them. Are they frustrated? Do they not understand what you're asking of them? Do they not understand the situation? Do they need to tell us something and they can't? So what we're seeing as a behavior is really them being frustrated. So we have something coming in. When I say something that my mom doesn't recall, she will often accuse me of making it up to make her look crazy. Should I try to provide support for what I'm saying or just let it slide? So yeah, that does happen sometimes. If they don't remember, they will accuse you of making things up. So we never argue. We empathize with their position. I'm sorry you don't remember that I said that. I don't really know.
Well, it depends on the situation. You can pass it off as a joke depending on the situation. One thing that drives me crazy is when they'll say, no, remember, I told you. Well, remember, hello? No, they don't remember. If they remembered, they probably wouldn't need memory care. Okay. I know that seems obvious, but we all have words that come right at the tip of our tongue, right? Remember, it's not, you're not trying to be unkind. It's one of your automatic responses that we use all the time with one another. And I know my husband's watching tonight, God bless him. And I say that to him, honey, remember, and it's like, okay, I teach this for a living. And I'm saying to my husband, who is of sound mind and body, remember, well, no, just stop. That's not a kind thing to say to anyone, because if they remembered, they wouldn't have asked you again. And yet here we go. So, we say the terms like join the journey. So if they say, well, no, you never said that to me, say, you know what, Mom, I think I said that to my friend Sally. I'm sorry. One thing if you watch any of the Teepa Snow videos, I know we've talked about Teepa Snow, and one thing she says a lot is be free with I'm sorry. It doesn't hurt you to say I'm sorry, whether you did anything wrong or not. Say I'm sorry. If we're talking and I say something and I say, I am so sorry, it makes you feel better. Even though maybe I don't think I did anything wrong, but it sure makes you feel a heck of a lot better. And if you're already knowing that you can't remember what you had for breakfast, if somebody says, Mom, I am so sorry, I bet I told that to someone else, forgive me, right? It just shifts the whole dynamic. So don't forget, I'm sorry. That works like, yeah, words to live by. Oh, hearing loss, okay.
So another issue is hearing loss. Sometimes my husband never heard me or heard only part of the words. Oh, I'll speak up better next time.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you want to if anybody is having hearing loss, not just our friends with dementia, you want to face directly when you're talking to them, be at eye level, and then know if there's one side that's worse than the other, and then approach from the side maybe that's not as far lost as the other.
Exactly.
So, how do you know when it's time to offer limited choices? Is there a certain stage of dementia, or does it depend on the person? Yeah, so a lot of times with the limited choices, if you notice that your loved one's having trouble making decisions, or they're having a lot of refusals. So when you say, what would you like for breakfast? And they don't answer. And then, I'm not hungry, I don't want to eat. That's when it's kind of a cue that maybe they can't think of what are breakfast items, what are their choices. They might not be able to remember. So that's when the this or that comes in handy. Or, where would you like to go today? And they don't answer, or they don't know. So that's when you would, give a choice. Would you like to go for a walk, or would you like to do a puzzle, and see, give those choices and see what they come up with.
Funny,
Yes.
this whole slide here is totally what my wife and I with our 2-year-old. So the choices thing, like, really, that empowers her a lot to do what we need her to do at that time. Whether it's getting dressed or what have you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that kind of, can the Zoom hear that, what you just, okay. So we just had a comment from the audience about a lot of this kind of pertains to when you're raising kids as well. And one of our questions is how do you handle, not treat them like a child when maybe their behaviors resemble that of a child? And that can be really hard sometimes, especially for caregivers. And we do a lot of training on that, is that you don't treat them like a child, and you don't talk down at all. Try not to be condescending at all when you're taking care of a loved one. Just remember that they're an adult, and they're a human, and they have had such a full and rich life. And, you have to remember that their behavior, it's not them, it's the disease. And so it can be hard that it mimics that of a child, but they are still just, I get real emotional about that, because it can be very difficult. But yeah, just looking back on their, thinking of their life and who they are. So.
And like Brent said, it can be very empowering, even with his 2-year-old, because if you get the vacant look and you say, do you want apple pie or ice cream? It empowers them, because now you've cued them that these are your 2 options. And the other thing is, can you have those in your hand? Do you want the blue shirt or the red shirt? They may not know what blue or red is, but they'll point, I want that shirt. So, if you want apple pie or ice cream, visual aids really help. So again, it's like, well, I don't know, but that looks good to me, and again, that's very empowering. And that's where you can differentiate between treating a child. One thing we were looking at before we went live tonight is pictures of the brain. And when you look at like an MRI of a child's brain and an end-stage Alzheimer brain, they're very similar in what part is developed, or in this case, it's regressed to that point. And so in the earlier ones, we talked about how, you have all your sensory motor and all these different things. And first thing that develops is curiosity. And the last thing that develops is safety awareness. And you lose it in reverse. So in essence, like with the bookcase analogy we saw, we really are dealing with someone who their brain and their ability to reason isn't that dissimilar. And yet honoring them as an adult who's had a rich life is challenging. So yeah, use visual aids, point. I talk with my hands, you all have seen that. So it comes in handy when you can point it out, and not, what does apple pie look like? Well, if I go to Japan and say, what, do you want apple pie? Well, they don't know what in the world I'm talking about. They can't even understand English, but yet you show them and it's like, oh yeah, I want me some of that. So use that to your advantage.
All right.
Oh boy, we're cooking
Yep,
with
here
gas
we go.
tonight. Yeah.
How about when you have to protect your loved one from someone, usually a family member, who is trying to take advantage of them? Yeah, so that's a tough one. There's always family dynamics, and there is a great TIPA video on that.
Are we gonna be able to listen, see those people videos?
It's on
We-
YouTube, yeah.
Yes, so we do have one that we will be showing tonight. But yeah, that is something that on YouTube, if you type in TIPA snow, then those videos will come up, and there's all different types of, questions
I'm not sure
and.
how to get to YouTube on my television.
Angie can help you.
Oh, good.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we had a question about how to access TIPA snow videos, and those are available online. She has a website, and there are YouTube videos as well. So, but protecting a loved one from someone who's trying to take advantage of them, again, that's a family dynamic question. It's going to be very individualized. However, older adults are vulnerable adults, and so they are protected. So they're kid. Sorry.
No.
So if you do feel that someone is trying to take advantage of them, you can always report that to Adult Protective Services. Us here in this community, we're all mandated reporters. So if we knew of something like that, we would have to call. There's a 1-800 number where it can be reported, or an online report can be filled out. If it's more of a family situation, then I would talk with your doctor about that and get guidance from there on how best to handle it.
Mhm.
So the next one, if you feel like it's time to bring a caregiver into the home to help out a few times per week, how do you introduce that to the person with memory loss, especially if they don't know they have memory loss? So I would present that as, this is my friend Judy, and she is going to be hanging out with us today. She's going to have lunch with us today. And I would be present for the visit, the first initial one, see how it goes, do that introduction, and then get them familiar with that person. We had a couple here at the community when I first started who I was introduced to, and I spent a lot of time with the spouse that we knew eventually would be coming down to the arbor. And I think that made all the difference in his transition when he came down. His spouse handled it beautifully in introducing and planting those seeds that he eventually would be in our care. And so we hit it off. We spent a couple afternoons together. And then when he moved in, that helped the transition tremendously. And it would be the same at home with a caregiver. Plant that seed, get them familiar with them, and then hopefully a relationship will build from there with trust. All right.
All
Is
right.
this where the video
I
comes
think we
on?
have the video next, Brent.
Yes. So we have a video about the challenging behaviors and what we think might be a behavior.
Challenging behaviors, that's how we see it. They're misbehaving. They have problem behaviors. We've got to do something about this. Now, I'm going to call a timeout right now, because the biggest problem we have right here is you've already identified the source of the behavior. You're pretty sure it's them and what they're doing. Timeout. You need to take a step back and realize this is much more complicated than you think. And instead of being such a strong judge and jumping to conclusions, what I want you to do is back off and reframe this. I want you to realize that they're doing the very best they can to try to communicate with you, to meet a need, to express that they aren't liking what you're doing. And unfortunately, you simply see it as not getting your way. What you don't realize is that you started this very frequently in your effort to be helpful. Let me just say to you, you weren't as helpful as you thought you were. I didn't really enjoy the help you gave me. Need to express such a strong judge and jumping to conclusions. What I want you to do is back off and reframe this. I want you to realize that they're doing the very best they can to try to communicate with you, to meet a need, to express that they aren't liking what you're doing. And unfortunately, you simply see it as not getting your way. What you don't realize is that you started this very frequently in your effort to be helpful. Let me just say to you, you weren't as helpful as you thought you were. I didn't really enjoy the help you gave me. I didn't get it. So you have a choice right now. Are you going to continue to push your agenda to try to get where you want? Or can you take that step back and go, okay, well, this isn't working. Let me rethink. So what you want to do when you experience a behavior you're not liking, you need to, whoa, take that step back. Take a deep breath, let it go, and realize now it's time to kick in the front of your brain and to become a really good detective. Try to figure out what might be driving what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you're feeling, and what they're feeling. What maybe you're smelling and they're not picking up on, what they're tasting versus what you would be tasting. Because what you want to do is realize that you need to see it from their side. And once you see it from their side, you try to be in their shoes, figure this out. Suddenly, when you see things, hear things, experience things differently, and you make that choice, that decision to do that, the uh-oh becomes an aha, because you can start to realize it's the setting, it's the care, it's the gem. It's who they were before this all started. There's lots of pieces to the puzzle. Your job, if you want to do this well and do this over the course of this condition, is to stop the judgment, time yourself out, and reframe this behavior. Go from a challenging and frustrating, I just don't understand why she's doing this, to pausing for yourself, getting some help, maybe getting somebody else to take a look with you, because maybe you just can't see it because of who you are and how it works. But what you're going to do is take that step back, look more broadly, and at that point, make a decision. What are they trying to do? Are they communicating an unmet physical need? There's basically 5 of them you want to learn about. Or an unmet emotional need. Or are you seeing the emotional need, but you're missing the physical need? Or was it something that is happening in the environment or happened earlier today? As I said, complicated. So you need some training. You need to know what's going on and what's not going on so you can quit sitting in judgment and start using this. That's the best tool. That and your ability to bring people together to help you. So with challenging behaviors, it's not about them. It's about us and what we choose to do about this effort to communicate an unmet need and helping us figure out what is the need and how can we better meet it for success for both of us. Making a positive difference because we choose positive approach to the care. Now remember this lady? What do you think she's doing? You see her beating on the chairs, making noise, annoying people, and you know she needs to go to the bathroom. It's been a long time. You've tried to make her stop, but she won't. What if I told you she used to clean houses for a living? I'm going to try substitution and a positive approach rather than trying to make her quit. Miss Leona. Well, hey there.
Get out, get your hand.
Get my hand out the way. You're trying to get them clean. Here, try this. She's a busy woman.
There you go.
I'm going to try a substitution here.
I'll trade you.
Not yet. Show her.
Rub it with that. Can you rub it? Yeah. Here, rub
We're
it.
getting there.
Trade me. Trade me. Here you go. Take this.
All right, get it.
You got it. Now trade out. There you go.
Ta-da.
Now rub it.
Now I show her, and there she goes.
There we go.
People
Good.
are less annoyed, not so much noise. And she's
Beautiful.
cleaning. Now I want to reinforce it. That's
Got
good, that's good.
2 more to go.
But I still haven't met
You're doing a fantastic job.
her unmet need. One more substitution.
Nicely done, Leona.
She needs to get finished with this
Boy, you are good.
so we can move on.
You get this one?
Watch me, I'm sneaky.
That's it. Good. Good.
I visually eliminate the task.
Whoa. Woo! That is beautiful. You did a fantastic job. Man, you're a good cleaner. Here. Thank you.
All right, well, come with me and we'll sit down and take a break.
Oh, good.
I know you're ready for one, aren't you?
Now,
I don't
before
blame
she
you.
goes to sit
You're
down,
worn
though,
out.
we have a place to go.
Oh, girl, you worked hard.
Oh, good.
You are one of the hardest working women I've ever met.
Yeah.
Well, Lord knows. Let's go to the ladies before we sit down, though.
Okay.
Okay.
We changed the challenge to success.
So does that make sense there? Yeah, we see that all day, every day down in our arbor. People who just have these needs that we need to meet and they may not be able to tell us, so we have to figure it out. So we have a question here. My biggest problem has been that no one believed me that my loved one had cognitive trouble. Giant
Oh.
cash donations were made to charity, valuable possessions given away, bathing didn't happen, memories confabulated, etc. This continued for years until an accident happened that forced institutional
no.
residency. Wow, that's tough. Yeah, I don't know. What do you?
That's, sometimes this happens when you have the complex family dynamics and you have one person that says, no, mom or dad are fine, there's nothing wrong. And these things go on, and it can be absolutely tragic. And please know you're not alone. This has happened to other people. And I know sometimes the family member that recognizes there's a problem, feels guilty about it. And, you can only do the best you can do. And it's sad, it's awful. It's awful that someone would take advantage when at some level you have to know what's going on. And I think that is also a huge plus for community living because they're a little more sheltered. They're not going to get robocalls and different things. And we've heard it here with residents that live in the lodge, and people can be very convincing when they call on the phone. And, well, if you just give me your credit card number, I'll send it to your house or whatever. And it seems really authentic. And we're all trained to think the best of people, not the worst of people. And I'm so sorry this happened to you, your family member, because it didn't need to happen. And yet it happens. We've seen it more than once, certainly in the last 10 years, where it takes an outside agency. Sometimes a neighbor will say, I see this neighbor that I've had for 40 years, day in and day out, and I can tell you something's not right. It's, habits are different, patterns of behavior are different, and nobody wants to hear it. So, yeah, it's good to be on the lookout. And Adult Protective Service has sometimes a curse to those of us who work in the industry. They can be a little intense, I think is a good word. But we know that it's their heart to make sure that people are safe. And that's just heartbreaking. I'm sorry. Wow. Not good.
So then we had a question about slowing the progression of dementia. So I'm not super familiar with, tried and true, this is going to work research, but some tips for protecting your brain health, keeping a healthy brain, physical activity that's going to promote blood flow to the brain, that's going to promote chemicals in your brain that protect it, keep you functioning optimally. So walking, gardening, any type of physical activity is going to be good for you. Brain games, so reading puzzles, crosswords. We do a lot of that down in the arbor. We work puzzles, we have word searches, crosswords, and your loved one may not be able to do it, but you could, do it with them, have them help you. They may not be able to find a whole word, but can you just find the R's in the puzzle for me? And then work it from there with them. We have one caregiver who likes to turn it into a race with the residents. Well, you work on it, I'll work on it when I have some downtime, and we'll see who finishes first. She usually lets them win. And then nutritional, approaches to protecting your brain. So there is some research that following certain diets may help. So the DASH diet, dietary approaches to stop hypertension. And that one I'm gonna have to look at my notes on to see what that does include. So that one includes vegetables, whole grains, fat-free or low-fat dairy products, poultry, beans, and nuts, and then the Mediterranean diet. And that's a diet that's rich in fish, leafy greens, vegetables, berries, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. So those are things that are going to be good for your body, but they're also good for your brain as well. Do we have other questions?
Okay, come on, this is your big opportunity right here. Oh, yes.
I could not come to the first 5 or however many I missed.
It only seems like 5.
And I've been trying to get them online. And I go to the website that ends in Zens. Right? And then a picture of today's production comes up.
Okay,
And that no previous ones.
okay. And are you, so the question was, how do you get to previous episodes? I like that word. How do you start at the beginning?
So that, so you would need to go to Wesley event or WesleyWebinars.com, and it's at the very bottom of the page under previous webinars.
Okay,
Okay, so it's under web.
right. So you, if you're trying to get to earlier episodes, I love that. It's like we're a sitcom or something. Is Wesley Webinars, but scroll to the bottom, because I know the first time I looked for it to send it to a friend, I didn't scroll far enough. So make sure you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the page. Yeah, and if you have any difficulty finding anything, just reach out on the website to info@wesleyhomes.org. And we are happy to send you any information. Okay, here we go.
So we have a question. Is there a trick to get your loved one to change their routine to encourage more stimulating / engaging activities? So that's a tough one, is getting them motivated to do things outside their normal. I actually had a resident recently who's been watching TV for hours, and I'd go in, you want to go do something, and they're no. So give the choices. Would you like to go have a snack, or do you want to go for a walk? Oh, I don't want to do either one of those. Okay. So we open the blinds. It's a beautiful day. We had one of those rare sunny days in Washington. Why don't we go outside? We don't even have to walk. We'll just go sit. Well, okay. So just appealing to their senses. They might not want to, go and be stimulated right away, but just getting them to do little things here and there. I'm not sure exactly what routine you're trying to get them out of, but a lot of people are creatures of habit and they don't want to veer away from that routine. So, and that's okay sometimes.
Well, and to add to that a little bit, sometimes this happens when people live alone and they need community living and it's just not recognized. I mean, there can be, dozens of reasons why the family has said, we're just going to leave mom at home as long as she can possibly be there. The problem is they get into a routine of the recliner and, Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy and, all of this. Yeah. Well, we all watch those. I know I had a friend over the weekend say, you're of a certain age when you start looking forward to watching Wheel and Jeopardy. And I thought, oh, dear God, I'm already there. Oh, no, it's because I've been hanging out with you guys too much. Anyway, you get into that habit and then folks will say, well, when my mom was younger, she gardened and she'd go for long walks and all these other things. But sometimes when you say back to the kids, well, when did that happen? Well, when my mom was in her 40s. Well, mom's in her mid 80s now. So you might expect things to have changed a little. And again, sometimes you have to join their journey and know that maybe it's not going to be as robust as it was, depending on what time period you're looking at. And I've encouraged people to be outside for things like, we're serving ice cream in the courtyard, just to get somebody to go outside. I know. Yeah, I'll try that next week with the folks in the lodge. you know, it just, sometimes it's just that enticement, you know,
Mhm.
like opening the blinds and, oh, it's nice out. Yeah, you know, that does sound like a good time. I'll go outside. You know, we have gardening here in our courtyard, the raised garden beds. So if someone is or was into gardening, maybe if you come over and you bring plants over and say, you know, Mom, you love a fresh salad with dinner. I know you always look forward to that. So we're going to see if we can have this garden bed area, and let's plant tomatoes and some vegetables. And then when you want your salad at dinner, you can come out here and harvest your own salad, or maybe salad for you and your friends. Okay, so again, thinking out of the box with what we have. And but that can be a downside to having people stay at home too long, is you get, you know, if my husband's traveling, I go home and I'll have microwave popcorn and a Diet Pepsi for dinner and watch Wheel and Jeopardy because I don't have anybody to cook for. So it's easy to get into those habits when you're not in a community and spurred on by your neighbors of saying, come on, we're going down, and you know, whatever. So there's a thought.
Makes sense.
Oh, that's your question.
Yeah. What kind of substitution could there be for overeating or drinking a bit too much alcohol? So my grandmother had Alzheimer's, and she liked to drink her alcohol. And so we, you know, maybe some vascular dementia at play there. And so my parents switched her to the NA beer, O'Doul's, and that sufficed. She was happy with that. And then after a while, as her Alzheimer's progressed, she didn't really drink anymore. She was okay with it. She definitely could tell the difference in the very beginning, but I mean, if the choice to have real beer is not there, chances are they're going to take what they can get. So if they don't drink beer, I'm not sure on a hard liquor substitute, but that's what we did in our family with the beer. Overeating. So that's going to be offer other activities besides eating. I mean, I am one, I'm bored, I'm going to look in the pantry. I'm happy, I want to celebrate. Let's go out to eat. You know, eating is a big part for a lot of people. So, but finding other activities, or maybe, you know, instead of having a snack, here's a drink. Let's have this instead of that. So just finding other alternatives. Yeah.
Other questions? Come on, it's a golden opportunity here. We're a captive audience. Yes.
When you have dementia combined with severe physical limitations, there's a lot of these things that I can see would really, really work. However, my husband isn't strong enough to do a lot of these things over a while. Some days you can, other times you can't. So it's a lot of either sleeping in the chair or sleeping in bed.
So the comment or question was that there's a spouse who has dementia, but also has some physical limitations due to other health issues. And so there's a lot of sleeping going on. He's not necessarily able to participate in more physical activities like going for walks. So one recommendation could be maybe a wheelchair. I know a lot of people don't want to ride in a wheelchair, but that would be one option to get him out and not have to exert physical energy, even just to be have a change of scenery out of the room, or sitting. I don't know if he likes to do word searches, crossword puzzles, things like that. Yeah. So just doing things together, you know, sitting, listening to music, things like that are stimulating, but don't require a lot of physical energy. Yeah.
Photo albums.
Yeah.
Sometimes are really a fun kind of activity. You know, looking at trips you may have taken, and again, something that will bring him joy, but doesn't include a lot of physical strain. I taught a class on isolation and dementia during the height of COVID, and fun things like my husband and I have 2 or 3 movies that we love, or I'm going to rat him out again. He loves the Avatar series of those sci-fi movies, and Avatar is his favorite movie. So something like that. Let's do a movie day and pop some popcorn if he's able to eat popcorn or whatever his favorite snack is. And let's watch our favorite movies. And it could be old family movies, or it could be like, yes, dear Avatar, or you know, whatever, Sundance Butch and whatever that is, Sundance Kid. But a movie like that, again, it's just something different, and it could bring him and you some joy. And something I really want to touch on, if yes, reading them aloud. Okay. Reading aloud to them. That's a great one. Thank you. It is remember you in all this. Okay. For any of you that are helping to take care of a loved one, you know, whether it's bringing in a caregiver, or maybe, you know, if you know Avatar's his favorite movie and he has his Raisinets and he's, you know, all set up, then you could go and take a hot bath, you know, or just do something for yourself. Go next door and visit with your neighbor, you know, go get a manicure and have your neighbor check on him while you're out. You know, use those, you know, that can give you a couple hours of freedom to just be you and do something special for yourself. Go to the hair salon and get your hair done, or again, whatever brings you joy, but you have to take care of you at the same time. Okay. It's really, really important.
So it says, what does Wesley have to offer when one spouse has dementia and needs round-the-clock care, but the other spouse doesn't? Oh, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
So,
Yeah, go for it.
so here at Tehali and our Wesley campuses, we have independent living, we have catered living, and we have the arbor. So when we have a lot of couples where one spouse does live in the arbor and the other lives in the independent living side. So it gives them the opportunity to be close together, but the spouse with dementia's needs are being met with round the clock care down in the arbor, which is our memory care. So is frequent napping a symptom of advancement or more of boredom, both of which seem to be common with my loved one who lives alone and blames her memory issues with being alone? So that both, as dementia progresses, they will sleep more. They'll require more sleep, but also they could be sleeping because they're not getting the stimulation they need. They're bored. What else is there to do besides sleep? And so I hear that a lot down in memory care, and just in my experiences, you know, why get up? You know, I want to sleep. Well, so give them reasons to get up, especially if they live alone. It can be difficult. But even in a community setting, that's where we come in with our activities and, you know, getting up to get them to participate in things.
Sleeping a lot can also be a sign of depression.
Yes, absolutely. So the
Absolutely.
comment was that sleeping a lot can be a sign of depression, which is very true too with withdrawal and isolation. You can see that with depression sometimes too.
Whoops. My son-in-law, I think we lost one. My son-in-law has a wheelchair with handles to move it forward or backward, chain driven on to wheels. He has MS and can't walk well, but very mobile with this. That is terrific.
Yeah, all terrain.
Wow. Oh,
How successful is catered living for someone with mild cognitive impairment? Yeah, so our catered living is still independent living with services. So it would just depend on, you know, what impairment they do have. One of the big questions that our catered living staff will ask is, are they safe behind closed doors? And then if the answer to that is yes, if they can be left alone behind closed doors in an apartment, then they would be more than likely a candidate for catered living, but the supervisor for that department would perform an assessment to see. So a lot of times her and I will work together as well, maybe do the assessment together to see if they would be more suited for my department or hers. Going back to the question about what Wesley offers, can a couple live together in the memory care apartment if only one needs care? Absolutely. So we have a 2-bedroom apartment in our arbor and a couple 1-bedrooms that are double occupancies. So we can provide care to the spouse who needs it. And then the spouse without dementia is free to come and go. We would work that out depending on the case. But yes, that is an option for spouses to stay together. And Wesley is actually the first community that I've worked for that has offered that. I've worked in long-term care since 2008, and that's the first of its kind that I've heard of that. So that's great.
Is this where I say I worked in long-term care since 1993? And I would agree with you
Yeah.
completely. It's very unusual. And I find that is a real stressor that couples, for some couples being, in separate apartments works great. For others, not as well. And the fact that we even offer that, I think is just, another one of the reasons that we chose to work for Wesley and with Wesley, as well as, have loved ones live here.
Is it common for those with dementia to take antidepressants or anxiety medication? In my experience,
Mhm,
yes. A
mhm.
lot of the residents that I care for are on some form of antidepressant. It just is one of those things. I can't tell you why, but a lot of them do take antidepressants, and then the anti-anxieties as well. Maybe not as routinely, but they're usually in the medication arsenal just in case they're needed.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Is that it? Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. This has been an honor and a privilege and humbling, honestly, to share this time with you and Marley. And you'll be getting a survey about what your thoughts were about this program and what you'd like to see going forward. Our beloved Christine Tremaine has convinced us that we're going to do this again in the fall. Yeah, we're going to do this again in the fall. So please reach out to us, because I can talk about anything where dementia is concerned. In fact, I can talk about just about anything, anytime. But the point of this is, like we did tonight, we want to fill in the gaps that you feel like you're missing. And how can we fill in those gaps? Is it more hands-on if you're doing more direct care? Is that what you would find beneficial? We have an arsenal of information that we can pass along, but we want to tailor these to what your specific needs are and the areas that you would like to learn more about. So thank you. Look for those in your email. Send us emails through the summer. If you have questions or you need, resources, you'd like us to point you in a direction, we're not going anywhere. Even if you don't get to see us on Wednesday nights, know that we are right here and we are more than happy to reach back to you. I have talked to some people on the phone that emailed me and emailed back and forth with a few folks that had very specific questions based on their living situation. So don't hesitate, don't be shy. I know the folks that are here looking at me are not shy. They all know where my office is and they're happy to come in at any time. So thank you. God bless you all. Thank you for this opportunity and we wish you all the best and we're going to see you in the fall.
Thank you.
Good night.
What do you want to do?